Let's, we got Greg in Colorado. You're on with Don and Matt.
Hello. Thanks for taking my call. I'm calling, basically, I called about 5 months ago and was unable to communicate my idea. So here we go again.
Okay, who was on then?
I think Don.
Uh-oh, my fault.
And somebody.
Okay.
Okay, well, give it a shot.
We apologize if we misunderstood.
Give it a shot.
No, it's on me because I wasn't clear about what to say. So the thing is type of existence, kind of what you're arguing for matters, in my view, quite a lot. And I can show that God definitely exists. That's not hard. The thing is that when Matt goes and debates all of the theists, zero of the theists are arguing for a physical instantiation of God.
That's just not true. That's just not true. That's just not true. I've debated many people who are arguing that God is both physical and not physical.
Okay. Well, okay.
He's just not bound by the physical. God can take physical form. In Christianity, Jesus was God in physical human form.
For example.
Okay.
But even if they were arguing for God as a concept, concepts don't exist absent a mind.
Yeah.
And so
exactly. That was my. Wait a minute. Okay. Let me confused. Okay. I was just pointing out that most they're not. Usually they're not arguing for a physical God, mostly because they say that God can't be measured. I've heard that quite a lot.
Sure, but arguing for a conceptual God is not arguing for a God that actually exists, because I can have a concept of a unicorn, but that doesn't mean that a unicorn exists. So the fact that somebody has a concept of a God doesn't mean that the God exists.
Yeah, it's kind of uninteresting.
No, I was looking at it this way. See, if you have a concept of a God, say, do you consider like nations exist, or do you consider that numbers exist, or that ideas exist?
Numbers
These are all concepts.
Numbers don't exist. Ideas aren't concepts. They aren't conceptual. Ideas and thoughts are not conceptual. They are physical brain states, or they map directly to physical brain states. That's distinct from something that is purely conceptual. And you're confusing essentially the map for the place when you try to say that because somebody has a concept of God, God definitely exists. Well, no, the concept of God definitely, and I'm going to put this in air quotes, exists, because you got to define existence, and if you define the conceptual as existing, it's contingent upon a mind. And so that's not the way we view existence. So this is a problem with our limitations of language to categorize things. But it would be absurd to say that because I can imagine a God, that God definitely exists because he exists in my imagination. Those are not the same things. Just like I can imagine that there's a fairy standing in the corner. But that doesn't mean that there's a fairy standing in the corner. The concept is not the thing. They are independent.
Right. I get this. Okay. I get this. The other thing that I was trying to say is the other thing for existence. What do you have to do to show existence? What's the one thing that you should never do when you're showing existence?
What's the one thing you
And
should?
the answer is this: if you're going to show something exists, if you're going to claim that something exists, the one thing that you can never do is prove that it exists. And here I'm using a technical definition of proof as a mathematical. You assume stuff and you prove stuff. And why I say this is because
I'm not disagreeing with you. I just don't know how this is relevant to anything.
Well, the reason why this is relevant is okay.
See, I can make a reasonable demonstration that my glasses exist to virtually anybody. I'm holding them in my hand. If there's anybody that I can actually communicate with, doesn't matter if they can't see, they can hold on to them. If they can't hear, whatever they're, as long as there's somebody I can communicate with, I can demonstrate that these glasses that I'm holding in my hand exist. Okay, but I cannot prove it in a mathematical sense. So what difference does it make if you bring up an irrelevant? It's like saying I can't measure love by the yard. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying.
Yes, but that's not the point. The point is, like when William Lane Craig goes and debates anybody
except me.
Right. Whenever he debates somebody, he always claims that he gives proofs for the existence of God.
Okay.
And since he claims that he's giving proofs, you can't.
He's using no, Greg, Greg, stop. He's using a colloquialism. We often do. You decided that you were going to use in this conversation proof as an explicit mathematical term, and mathematical proof is a very, very specific usage. Craig is not saying he has a mathematical proof for God. He's using proof in a colloquial sense like we do every day. Like if I say, I've got $25 in my wallet, and
here's proof.
Don says, prove it, and I open up my wallet and show him, I still have not done a mathematical proof. We are proving it in a different sense, in a colloquial sense. And so you can't criticize Craig or anybody else for not being able to do something that they're not claiming that they can do. And so what you're doing is like, you can't prove love exists because you can't measure it by the yard. That is exactly what you're doing, and it doesn't get where you think it does.
Okay. Okay, wait a minute. I'll backtrack.
Okay.
This is related to existence. Now, theists always say that existence needs explaining.
Do they?
Always.
Do they?
I don't think I've ever heard that.
In debates, that always comes up. Existence needs explaining.
Well, okay, there needs to be some, they would like for there to be an explanation for why something exists instead of nothing.
Right. And so they say existence needs explaining.
Okay.
Now, the contrapositive, where I'm going is contrapositive is logically equivalent to an if-then statement. So if you say if existence then needs explaining, then the contrapositive, which is equivalent, is if known existence needs explaining, then it doesn't exist. Okay, non-existence. So in English, then existence needs explaining has a direct contradiction of existence needs explaining is non-existence needs explaining. Because non-existence doesn't need explaining as it's contrapositive. Now,
I'm not sure your math works out there, but
it does. It does. I worked.
Sure. If the positive were existence requires an explanation, then the contrapositive would be that there's no explanation for non-existence. But I don't know, what does this have to do? Because you called in to say that you could definitely prove that a God exists, and we've already shot that down.
Right. So this is, I had three this is important to me because this is you have a stated statement that a lot of theists use, and I've seen it in the debates that you debate. They say that existence needs an explanation.
Okay.
So you say, if existence then needs explanation, and all I was trying to show is that that statement implies that non-existence doesn't need an explanation.
Okay,
That
and
that's
that's
direct-
completely irrelevant because non-existence isn't a thing, and non-existence isn't relevant to whether or not there's a God.
No, it's a statement and it's negation. If something doesn't exist, then that's the opposite of existing. It's a negation. So if I'm claiming, say, that there exists a largest prime, there doesn't, but if I'm claiming that there doesn't exist a largest prime, then what I have to show, or what you show in proofs, is that this thing doesn't exist.
Now, okay, so stop.
Non-existence.
Stop, Greg. So it lists you here as an atheist. Is that correct?
Huh? Yes.
Okay. And yet you're an atheist who called in to definitely prove that God exists. Already we have a massive conflict because you can't be an atheist if you're convinced that a God exists. But second of all, when you try to demonstrate...
I'm not convinced. All I was pointing out is...
How could you possibly say that you can definitely prove that a God exists and then say you're not convinced?
Because okay, because I was thinking that if you're allowing concepts to exist, if you say that concepts exist, then concepts don't do anything. You can't. Concepts don't answer prayers. They don't create anything.
Right.
And
we accept that the concept of God exists.
The concept of God exists, and that's all I was.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying that.
Okay. Well, we already know that. Everybody knows that.
Okay, and the other thing with the existence is existence. The negation of existence is non-existence.
I tell you what, Greg. Tell you what,
explanation.
Greg. Let's just stick a pin in this. You go off and rework this and call us back another time because I'm not sure it's clear to anybody what you're trying to prove or demonstrate or how. So, and I want to get on to some other callers before we run out of time.
Thank you for a call, Greg.
Thanks.